So a couple days ago, I dropped this video right here, which was talking about the best flying mounts in the game. And I basically showed you the progression, but I didn't have all the flying mounts. But today, we're going to make amends. In this video, this is going to be every single flying mount that you can get in the game. There's 17, spoiler alert. And with those 17, there's going to be 2 extras, a little bit of an honorable mention type deal going on in this video. If you're excited for this entire ranking of every single flying mount, then let's get into it. Without further ado, I'll drop the first couple of contestants. This is going to go on a tier list of S tier, A tier, B tier, which is basically the lowest tier that I'm going to give it. I mean, practically anything lower than that is trash, but that should be kind of self-explanatory. It's not necessarily a trash tier. It's just, we're just going to say C tier. How about that? Keep it easy. Now, all of my, I guess, opinion is completely subjective. Somebody out there might have a favorite pal that I don't deem to be my favorite pal, and that's perfectly fine because we all have our own, you know, things that we love in this game. However, the basis or the thought process that I have going into my ranking system is, number one, the utility. How many different types of abilities are they bringing to the table, their passive skills? 2, their design. I'm really into some of the best designs, and if it's something that I've seen before or not really unique, so to speak, then it might not get the highest grade that you might have given it on your tier list. And then the third thing that I'm looking for is literally the level. Like, at what level and what cost did you have to, you know, spend your resources in order to even get this pal into your possession and actually use it validly for a mount? Those are the 3 tiers, or the 3, we'll say, guidelines or rules that we're going to be following while we talk about all these pals. But let's jump straight into it. The first things first, I'm starving. Why? Alright, now that I've thrown some food back, let's get it going. So our first pal for today is going to be this right here, Faleris. Faleris is hands down one of the cleanest pals in the game. The design is amazing. The Egyptian theme with the red, black, and gold is gold, yellow, gold. Hey, it looks clean and I love it. You can actually breed to get this pal, and I have an entire guide about that right here. If you want to go ahead and check out that video, you know, you can slide back through when you finish. But it's just, the design is so clean. It's one of my favorites, and this one is an easy S tier pal. The reason why I mark this one as an S tier is because not only does it have some decent stats, it has some of the best quality of life work suitabilities on it, such as kindling level 3 and transportation level 3. That's just absolutely insane. You can increase this to level 4 if you get this all the way to a level 4 pal, so it has a lot of potential. You can actually start using Faleris as a mount as soon as level 38. The design is S tier, and the passive skills that you can get on this thing, plus also make it a viable option to go out into battle with, is kind of insane. Viable? Is that the word I'm looking for? I hope so. Moving right along, we'll go into Shadowbeak. So, Shadowbeak for me is cool. It's probably gonna have to grow on me. This isn't a bad pal. I mean, so many people are saying this is the greatest pal in the game, and they stand by it. I'm not gonna knock it. Personally, for me, the work suitability only has gathering of level 1, and to me, that is why it drops down to A tier. A lot of people are stating that this thing has an insane attack stat, and you have to breed in order to get this pal. And actually, for me to get to this pal, it took me a while. I had to get my Grizzbow. I have a breeding guide on how to do that here on the channel, as well as Orzerk. They're all in a single video, so if you want to go click on that and come back, you can. But you want to take Orzerk and Grizzbow, smash those 2 together, and you're going to get this right here. This Shadowbeak it's pretty dope. The design is definitely S tier, but the quality of life and the work suitability, only having 1 level in gathering, is kind of something that I wish was a little bit better. You can start using Shadowbeak as a mount at level 47. That's also another reason why I put it so low on my tier list, which, I mean, A rank is not a bad slot. However, it being so late game for you to actually get to it, the amount of breeding and work you got to put in to actually get to the pal, and the turnaround with the work suitability is just dropping it to a solid A tier. Maybe after using it as a combatant, I might completely change my mind and it might go straight up to S tier. But for now, it's A tier. I mean, let me know down in the comment section below if it's definitely S tier and why it should be. I'm here for the argument. I'm definitely down to listen. But Suzaku is next up on the list. Suzaku is an insane pal that you can get as early as level 40, as well as Suzaku Aqua. These two are both on my tier list at a solid A tier market. Now, hands down, the blue Suzaku Aqua design is gold. This thing absolutely cracked. This is cracked out. Do you want the smoke? Are you good? I guess they good. So this Suzaku right here is just cracked out. The design goes crazy. Like, it seriously is probably one of the cleanest designs I've ever seen. It has level 3 and watering, which is making it a pretty solid pal to have by your side. I guess I'm in combat right now with some stupid thing. Oh wow. It was level 1 and they killed it. You ruined my video. Why would you do that? You killed Suzaku. That's just wild. Anyways, this Suzaku and the other one are two of the most beautiful mounts that you can get in the game. You can get this one at level 40. You can get the Suzaku Aqua as soon as level 43, which isn't too far away, but it still is late game. You can actually find Suzaku here as a boss out in the open world up in the desert area being right over here to the right. So you'll have your Suzaku right here, and this Suzaku is going to be the key for you getting the legendary shotgun schematic, which is this gun right here. It's one of the most powerful guns in the game, and it's key to taking down some of the legendaries. So that definitely brings this thing pretty high on my tier list. Doesn't go all the way up to S tier only because my S tier is kind of locked down with 4 of the most insane pals that are in this game, but it's almost there. It's almost there. I'm not putting Suzaku over Shadowbeak for now, but we'll see what happens in the future. Moving right along, we got our next contestant up, which is this one right here, Nitewing. Nitewing should be a lot higher on my tier list, but it's a solid C tier. The reason why it's a C tier is because it's just so slow. It's the first mount that you actually get in the game. It's going to be your first introduction into actually flying around in the game. So that should definitely put it at least B tier. But it's so slow and its stamina pool is so low that it's really hard for it to get out of C tier. You can get it as early as level 15. It's a solid combatant for the early game. It's going to get old pretty quick. It's going to save your life a lot of times because you can hop on its back and just get out of dodge and stay out of range to a lot of the attacks in the game. So, I mean, it has a lot of quality of life to it. And plus, if you look at this thing's stats, they're not too bad. Like, it has level 2 in gathering. That's not the greatest, but it's not the worst. With that being said, for me, Nitewing here, even though it's a shiny, is a solid C tier. I still love you, Nitewing, I promise. Now, right under Nitewing, we have another pretty cool mount that design is actually pretty damn clean, and that's Ragnahawk. Now, Ragnahawk for me is B tier. It is a level 37 mount that you are going to be able to get, but the design is clean AF. Like, this thing gives me some vibes of a lot of very, very familiar, I'm not going to mention the names, but you know what I mean. There are some things out there that this really just screams out at you, but the design is actually pretty clean and I love it. This is actually one of my key pals that I go to for my bases. Every single base has at least 2 of these running around because of that right there. That work suitability and kindling at level 3 is nothing is nothing to frown at. It comes in super clutch. It can get a lot of your iron and other things smelted pretty fast at a very decent rate, and it doesn't get stuck too often. The transporting at level 3 is also pretty key, making this a very, very commonly used pal for all of my bases. Because it's such a commonly used PAL, I'm going to put it as high as B tier. Almost A tier. It doesn't hit A tier because it does have to, you have to get to at least level 37 before you can even ride this thing. So that's a little bit mid to late game for me. It takes a little bit of time to get there. So it's not A tier, just not quite. But all the stats and the work suitability that this thing is packing is absolutely insane. And it's a very decent typing. Like that fire typing is going to knock out a lot of things with this move set. So it's something that's pretty solid. So our next PAL up is going to be this right here, Vanwyrm. Vanwyrm is a pretty clean PAL. Like it's one of the opening beginning PALs that you're going to get to. It's a level 21 PAL. So it's, it's fairly early in the game. And it's decently solid. It has some interesting stats because it has Kindling level 1, but it has Transporting level 3, which is not bad at all. That means it's going to be carrying around a lot of the items for some of your bases very, very quickly. And that's always something that can be very useful for your bases. For me, it's not really like the go-to. However, this thing is pretty clutch because you can use this to create some of the more advanced PALs in the game. So that is something to keep in mind. The typing is pretty cool because it has fire and dark as typing. So it's definitely not the worst PAL in the game. For me, Vanwyrm is a solid C tier. Let's move forward to the next PAL. Now this PAL is something crazy. It's Astegon. Astegon is a level 47 mount. It's going to take you forever and an arm and a leg to even get this thing. I'm going to have a full breeding guide on how you make this right here on the channel. So if you don't want to miss out on that, you know what to do. But it actually took me a while to get to this PAL. And that is kind of the setbacks. However, design-wise, it's pretty solid. The gradient on the claws is absolutely crazy to me with the flame coming off the wings, looking kind of majestic but kind of sinister all at the same time. Yes, it's an S tier PAL. For me, this thing at level 50 can smack super hard. I have it on another playthrough of mine that it's just kind of clutch. The mining at level 4 is the top of the line mining that you can get in the game. It flies around so it can get around your base fairly easily. But you probably won't be maxing out this thing to level 4 anytime soon. It's going to take you so much work just to get a single one of these. So it's kind of hard to put it in S tier above some of these other ones. But the design and just the utility and what you can do with this thing, it keeps it pretty solid in the S tier slot. So the next PAL that we have on the list is this one right here. This is actually the Vanwyrm Cryst. The Vanwyrm Cryst is a level 41 PAL, so it's going to take you a hot minute to actually get to it, but the design is clean AF. Like, I love the rainbow gradient thing that we got going on here with the purples, the blues, and the greens. It's just insane. It's a really clean looking PAL, and it goes a high quality B tier. Now, when we look at this thing's stats, the stats aren't too bad. They're sitting at level 2 in cooling and level 3 in transporting. So that is actually really solid. You can put some pretty cool passive skills on this thing to make it even more valid. And the design is just really A tier, like almost S tier, I want to say. So for me, this is not a bad B tier. It takes you so long in the game to get to level 41. So it's kind of not going higher than B tier for me, but it's definitely a great option if you're looking for something a little bit different and creative in the game. If you like the video so far, go ahead and smash that like button for me and sub to the channel so that you don't miss out on more videos like this one. But we're not done yet. Let's get to our next PAL. That's going to be Quiver. Quiver is actually one of the bosses on the map. You can find them out there in the world, and it's pretty accessible. It's not really hard to catch at all. And for me, Quiver is a solid B tier. You can actually ride this as a mount at level 36 in the game. It has a really decent design. It looks, it looks all kind and loving, fluffy. It has the white glistening design, and it's just pretty clutch. Because this can be found as an actual boss in the game, you can get a decent HP pull out of it, which is very helpful. It has a whole bunch of talents like handiwork, gathering, mining, and transporting. Handiwork being at level 1, gathering and mining being at level 2, and transporting being at level 3. So this is probably one of the best pals that you can get around level 36. Now, the reason why it's not necessarily A tier for me, I'm not really that much of a fan from the design. Because I'm not really much of a fan of the design. Like, it just hasn't sold to me yet. Maybe if I used it a little bit more often, it would sell. But for now, it's just not there yet. Solid B tier. I love it. And I sometimes use it from time to time when I need something for transporting and or mining. Moving right along. The next thing on our list is this one right here. Now, this is one of the cleanest pals in the game. It's a boss pal. It's found in the northern region of the map, all the way up here in the northwest corner. You can find it right here. Of course, I've already defeated it, and this thing gives you one of the legendary schematics. If you can beat this thing down enough, you might get lucky enough to grab this right here, the Pal Metal Helm. This is the greatest helm right now currently in the game, with a durability of 9,500, defense of 240, and a little bit of a health pool on it. This thing is coming in super clutch, making Frostallion an easy S tier pal. This thing is S tier for me because not only is it a boss with an HP pool that's over 13 to 14,000 HP, which is just insane, but it also has cooling to level 4. I am a food buff when it comes to this game, so I have a whole bunch of different types of foods that I flex in my bases to make sure that my pals are eating on the top of the line things. And this pal is the one that keeps all of my food solid for a long period of time, almost indefinitely. So I love it to death. It's a personal favorite, so I'm kind of a little biased when it comes to it. And this next one coming up. But Frostallion is a level 48 mount, so it's going to take you a while to even get to that point. It's an endgame mount, but when you got it, you'll be solid for a while. This is also a great pal to get because you can use this to take down other legendary pals in the game, which is going to come in clutch. Moving forward, we got this one right here, a little bit of an upgrade from what we have. It's the Frostallion Noct. Now, this design goes crazy. That black with purple with gold is just screaming at me, saying how beautiful this pal really is. This pal is also a special pal. Like, it's going to take you a little bit of finesse to get this thing breeded, and I'll go ahead and make a guide on how to make this one as well, because it's a little bit frustrating to try to figure it out. With that being said, you have gathering at level 4, which is pretty clutch. It has the highest gathering that any Pegasus in the game can actually have, and the HP pool can be pretty solid because you're using a legendary variant to get to it. With that being said, it's coming in S tier right along with Frostallion, just because of the cool utilities and of how beautiful it looks. Alright, for our next pal on the list is going to be something a little bit different, a little bit special. It's Hangyu. Hangyu is a special pal. Let's just put it like that. This is not a flying mount, but it can be used to fly. Double tap A and there you go. This thing actually lifts you off the ground. It's probably one of the most unique pals in the game because of that. Now, you can use this pal to actually get around and traverse the world pretty easily if you get the grappling gun. 1 second. Okay. Sorry about that. So you can actually use this by pulling out the grappling gun, putting on the floor, canceling, and double tap, and then boom. This thing is actually pretty insane. The utility here, like the speed that I can actually get around the map and just fly around, is crazy. It takes a little bit of practice to get the timing right to actually cancel correctly and be able to double tap and get the A button going so that you're off into the air, but you'll get used to it. And once you get used to it, it's a pretty solid mount that gets you around the map very easily. It lifts you up in the air for a specific amount of time so you can get over certain mountains and terrain out there in Palworld, and it's just a pretty solid mount. Now, for that aspect, for me, Hangyu is a solid, I'll say, A tier pal, just because it's completely unique and the level is level 20. So it's probably one of the easiest ways for you to get around the map. It's pretty fast, especially if you use it in a specific way. And it has a whole bunch of utilities. It has Handiwork level 1, Transporting level 2, and Gathering at level 1. Just an ultimately solid POW for you to have in the opening of the game at level 20. Might be a little high on the list, but I just feel for level 20, having something that can get you around that quickly is pretty fancy and pretty cool, and I kind of enjoy it. Let's move on to something a little bit more different and realistic. That's this one right here, the Elphidran Aqua and the actual regular Elphidran. Now, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce this or not, but that's how I pronounce it. So these are actually in the exact same spot for me. The Elphidran and Elphidran Aqua are not really my favorite types of POWs out there. The design is kind of basic, but they have Watering on level 3 and Lumbering on level 2. So they are coming in pretty clutch. Those stats are nothing to sleep on, and it has a pretty decent HP pool as well. Not really a bad POW. It's something that you can definitely use in different parts of the game. It's a boss on the actual map, and with that being said, you can actually start to fly on Elphidran as early as level 21. Now, the Elphidran Aqua cannot be flown until level 28, so it's going to take you a little bit of time in your technology tree to actually get to it, but once you do, it's decent. Like, at level 21, to be able to just hop on the Vanwyrm saddle or get the Elphidran saddle is pretty clutch for a very early game POW. I would say it's better than the Vanwyrm, but it's not that much better than the Vanwyrm for me. It's a pretty cool mount though. It's something that you might be interested in the early game, especially if it's the only options that you have. We got a couple of mounts left, and this next one is pretty amazing. This right here is Beakon. Beakon is an insane mount. It's actually a boss on the map that you can go to, and this boss is very special. It is going to be the pistol legendary schematic in the game. So that's going to come in clutch. It's a very important weapon that you're going to actually be using to take down the health of majority of everything in the game without killing it. And it's just weak enough but strong enough at the same time to be valid as a legendary weapon. The durability is absolutely insane, and this POW is the one that gives it to you. With that being said, Beakon is a solid B tier POW. It has some decent stats coming in with the electricity at level 2, transporting at level 3, gathering at level 1. You can actually get this as a boss, so it has a decent HP pool. Nothing too crazy, but it's not bad to say the least. And it's a fairly early mid-game POW at level 34. So it's not that bad. The design is looking kind of clean. Nothing too unique. Like, I feel like I've seen this design a million times other places, but it's not that bad. It's not that bad. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and move on to the last POW in this little batch we got going right here, and that is Faleris. Now, Faleris is only C tier on this list. However, this is a early game level 7 glider. That is extremely early for you to actually get this glider. So it's an option for you to traverse the game in a different way, a little bit faster without dying, and you don't actually need to spend your materials on the regular glider in the game. Now, Faleris is a special POW. It has watering at level 1 and transporting at level 1, but that's not where it's coming in clutch. It's coming in clutch because this thing can be mixed with a Relaxarus and make the strongest POW in the game, Anubis. That alone turns this POW into probably the S tier POW on this list. It's not, but it definitely has that potential. Because you can get the strongest POW in the game, this is probably one of my favorites on this list just because it has a special place in my heart. But, I mean, it's not that valid in a fight. The HP pool is fairly decent at 2,000, around level 30, so it's probably going all the way up to about 4,000 or 5,000 at the later levels. It has watering and transporting only at level 1, but you can definitely upgrade this thing to level 4 very easily because they're all over the map. So it's basically not too bad of an option for a POW. Out of these 5 POWs right here in my inventory right now, I would say that this one is pretty solid on this list at level 3. Beakon would definitely be Beakon would be about level 1, and Hangyu would probably be a little bit above Beakon, and Nor just behind Beakon. Alright, we're going to finally wrap this video up with the last 2 POWs of the list. Let's go into this one right here. Helzephyr. Helzephyr is a dope looking pal. You can't sleep on this. The design goes crazy. The wings looking like lightning bolts with the flame, the purple flame coming out the hair. That's just wild. It's a really, really beautiful looking mount. For me, I have it very, very high on my list at A tier. Very solid choice. It's only at A tier because it was an arm and a leg to try to get my hands on this thing. I had to breed to get it. And I had to breed my Faleris and my Blazemint to get to this thing, which is kind of insane because Blazemint is a level 49 boss and Faleris was a pal that I had to breed 2 insane pals just to get to. So yeah, but with that being said, the pals that I bred in order to get to this pal were some of the best pals that I've already pre-breeded on this channel, meaning that look at these stats. I have passive skills that are absolutely insane. They're not specifically for this mount, but I could make them specifically for this mount to make this mount that much crazier. I have Flame Emperor, Earth Emperor, Musclehead, and Mining Foreman. Like, not too bad at all. With transporting at level 3, it's a solid mount. It doesn't have the greatest HP pool, but the design makes up for it, so it's okay. Solid A tier in my book because this thing can be flown as early as level 33, which is fairly mid-game in Palworld, so that makes it a viable option to actually use. Once you probably start flying this thing, you're going to be using it a lot, and it flies at a decent pace in general, so it's a great pal for you to have in the beginning of the game. Last but not least, we have the GOAT. Now this one, it's enough said. The design gives you something to beg for, but nonetheless, this pal is absolutely insane. This right here is Jetragon. Jetragon is a level 50 legendary boss on the map. It can be found in the volcano area, but this thing is nothing to sleep on. 10,000 HP, which isn't the highest HP of the legendary pals, but is not the weakest. But it's not too bad. It has gathering at level 3, and this bad boy right here is going to get you the legendary rocket schematic, which is pretty clutch. This thing is not too bad with 14,000 damage coming through to be able to destroy almost anything that it comes up against. I mean, it doesn't one-shot some of the strongest pals in the game, but it does a lot of damage to them. It's one of my absolute favorites because its speed is insane. It's the fastest mount in the game, hands down. If you get this thing with runner or any type of swift or nimble, it makes it even faster and more broken, which is just completely unnecessary. The only reason why this isn't like the ultimate SS tier pal for me is because its stamina pool is kind of low. The Faleris' stamina pool is so much longer than this one, so I get more distance and time out of my Faleris flight than I do this one right here. However, Jetragon is flying the fastest speed in the game, so it kind of makes up for it. It's a very solid pal. It's a very solid pal coming in at a great S tier ranking on this list. And that right there is all 17 plus 2 extra pals that you can get in this game. If you like what we do here on the channel and you appreciate all the work and research that I did to get every single one of these pals for you, then I would really appreciate it if you smash that like button for me. And sub to the channel if you don't want to miss out on much more Palworld content coming in the future. This is your boy MSensHD. I really want to say thank you for just sticking around to the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one. For now, I'm out of here.